What's happening around the world
and what's happening here at home. Hello there, you're watching Primetime News here on Newsfirst, and I'm Naveksha Gunasekara for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Sandhu Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Navy commander clarifies that Indian fishermen injured due to accidental discharge of Navy officer's firearm. Chief of Defence Staff position likely to be abolished. Western Province Governor clarifies no involvement in uninspected container release incident. SJB and UNP continue discussions. Group supporting gas cylinder symbol initiates talks with the Freedom Party for new alliance. Air quality continues to decline. Doctors advise respiratory patients to exercise caution.
Your top story for tonight, Sri Lanka Navy reported that 2 Indian fishermen were injured when a naval officer's firearm discharged unintentionally during the seizure of an Indian fishing vessel in Sri Lankan waters. Navy Commander Vice Admiral Kanchana Banagoda stated that preliminary investigations have revealed these findings.
On Monday night, the Sri Lanka Navy observed a large number of vessels entering the Sea of Sri Lanka from Kankasanthure. Subsequently, naval vessels were dispatched to the area where they signalled the Indian fishing vessels to leave Sri Lankan waters using light signals. According to the Navy, the Indian fishing vessels complied and turned back, except for one vessel that continued to operate within the Sri Lankan waters. Navy personnel pursued this vessel and 2 officers boarded it.
මේ කියන යාත්‍රාව එසේ දැනුම් දීමට අවනත නොවි තවදුරටත් ක්‍රියා කිරීම සැකසහිත වූ බැවින්
The vessel in question did not comply with the signal to stop, raising suspicion. Therefore, we ordered our officers to approach and halt the vessel. 2 naval personnel, including an officer, boarded the vessel. Upon boarding, an Indian individual on the vessel near the pilot house acted aggressively, attempting to assault and disarm our officers. This led to the accidental discharge of a firearm, resulting in minor injuries to 2 Indian individuals. The injured were promptly provided medical treatment. Following the incident, our boarding team inspected the vessel and found fish harvested illegally within our maritime boundaries. This incident occurred off the coast of Jaffna near the Velvetithure area.
මේ සිද්ධිය සිද්ධ වුණේ යාපනයේ වැල්වැටිතුරේ වෙරළ තීරයට ඔබ්බෙන්.
In response to this incident, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs summoned the acting Sri Lankan High Commissioner in India to express their displeasure.
ඒගොල්ලෝ අපේ වැඩ බලන මහා කොන්සාරිස්තුමිය නවදීල්ලේ ඉන්නේ ආව.
The acting High Commissioner in New Delhi was summoned by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, where they expressed their protest. They emphasized that such unfortunate incidents should not reoccur. The Indian High Commission in Colombo also informed us of the incident, expressing their concern.
ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් සොයලා බලන්නේ තමන්ගේ ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒකට කනස්සල්ල පළ කරලා තියෙනවා.
A statement from the Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka highlighted the need for a humane approach to issues concerning fishermen's livelihoods and reiterated that the use of force is unacceptable under any circumstances. The statement also stressed the importance of closely monitoring the understanding between the 2 governments regarding such matters. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Navy confirmed that the shooting incident was accidental.
shooting incident එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ there had been a discharge of weapon. However, the weapon discharge is at a low angle. මෙහිදී උණ්ඩේ නිකුත් වීමේ
The shooting incident was due to an accidental discharge of the weapon. Preliminary investigations confirmed that it was an unintentional act.
මූලික පරීක්ෂණ වලින් තහවුරු.
We are committed to inspecting any unauthorized vessel entering Sri Lankan waters, whether it is Sri Lankan or Indian. As a lawful military force, we adhere to our fundamental regulations and conduct inspections legally. If the vessels comply with the inspection, there will be no conflicts.
පරීක්ෂාවට ඉඩ දෙනවා නම් ඒ සඳහා ගැටුම් ඇති නොවන බවත් මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ මතක් කරනවා.
The Ministry of Fisheries also provided a clarification on the matter.
This issue has arisen due to the misconduct of fishermen from Tamil Nadu. We must address this clearly. If we can resolve this through discussions, we are fully supportive. However, it is not acceptable for them to enter our waters and exploit our resources.
Defence Secretary retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakontha announced today that there is no decision to continue the position of Chief of Defence Staff. This revelation was made during a press conference held at the Ministry of Defence.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ ආරක්ෂක මණ්ඩල
We do not plan to maintain the position of Chief of Defence Staff. The necessary functions related to this role can be managed by the Ministry of Defence. If needed, we can reinstate the position at any time. Currently, we have not made a decision to fulfill the Chief of Defence Staff role.
fulfill කරන්න.
The press conference also addressed the audit conducted on firearms issued for personal use.
ජීවිත ආරක්ෂාවට ලබා දුන්න ආයුධ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි විගණනයක් පටන් ගත්තා.
We initiated an audit on firearms issued for personal protection. There were 1,697 licensed firearms and 1,550 license holders. Of these, 1,368 firearms have been audited and returned to the government. A small number, 182 firearms, are yet to be audited and returned. Some individuals were issued more than one firearm. As the Ministry of Defence, we limit it to one firearm per person. However, if intelligence reports confirm the necessity, we may issue additional firearms. But generally, it is one firearm per person.
ගිනියාවේ ලබා දෙන්නේ එක්කෙනෙකුට එක ගිනියාවියක් පමණයි.
යෝෂිත රාජපක්ෂ මහතාට ගිනියාවේ 7ක් 8ක් වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් ලබා දීම සම්බන්ධයෙන්. එතකොට එකක් මේ වෙද්දී නැවතත් ඔහුට ගිනියාවියක් ලබා දීලා තිබෙනවාද?
ගිනියාවි ලබා දීලා තිබ්බා ඔබ කියන සංඛ්‍යාව අනුව
Based on the number you mentioned, we have retrieved the firearms. Currently, he has one firearm. We have informed him to return the remaining firearm. We will decide whether to retrieve the remaining firearm based on further conclusions.
මනකට ඇවිත් තමයි මේ ගිනියාවියත් බාර දෙනවද නැද්ද කියලා ඉස්සරහට තීරණය කරන්නේ.
දෝෂිත රාජපක්ෂට මේ තරම් විශාල ගිනියාවි සංඛ්‍යාවක් නිකුත් කිරීම පසුපස යම්කිසි විශේෂ හේතුවක් තියෙනවා කියලා අනාවරණය වෙලා තියෙනවද?
විශේෂ හේතුවක් තියනවාද කියලා අපි එහෙම අනාවරණය කරලා නැහැ. නමුත්
We have not identified a special reason. As a policy, we issue one firearm per person. Based on intelligence reports, we have retrieved all firearms from him. But currently, 2 were reported to be in his possession.
දැනට දෙකක් කියලා වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙනවා.
මෙතරම් ගිනියාවි සංඛ්‍යාවක් නිකුත් කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් විශේෂ විමර්ශනයක් හෝ
ඒ සඳහාත් විමර්ශන අපි කරනවා. නමුත් ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි මේ විගණනය sort out කරගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නේ විතරම දවසට ගිනියාවි ප්‍රමාණයක් අස්ථානගත වුණා. ඒනොත් තවමත් ප්‍රමාණයක් එළි තියෙනවා කියන එක.
ඒ ඊටම බරපතල කාරණයක්. එය
It is a very serious issue. A considerable number of firearms have been misplaced in the past. Our audits confirm that some firearms are missing. We are taking stringent actions and have already initiated investigations.
ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් දැන්ටමත් පරීක්ෂණ ආරම්භ කරලා තියෙනවා.
හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ අමාත්‍ය ප්‍රකාශකවරයා සඳහන් කර සිටියා හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරයාට ඩ්‍රෝන් ඇටැක් එකක් කරන්න මේ සම්බන්ධ තොරතුරු තියෙනවා ඔහුගේ ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් බලන්න කියලා.
අපි සොයා බැලීමක් කරා.
We investigated and found no intelligence reports indicating a drone attack. If there was such a threat, there would be a specific intelligence report. We have not received any such warning. As government, we have policies on how to protect former presidents. We continuously update our security measures based on intelligence reports and adjust our tasks accordingly. The current security measures for former presidents are based on these assessments.
වෙනස් කරගෙන අපි ඒ අනුව ක්‍රියා කරනවා. දැන්ට තියෙන තක්සේරුව තමයි ඒ තක්සේරුව අනුව තමයි මේ ආරක්ෂාව ලබලා දීලා තියෙන්නේ හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරුන්ට.
Air Marshal Bandhu Singh assumed duties as the 20th Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
Air Marshal Bandhu Singh assumed duties as the 20th Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force this morning at Air Force headquarters. The commander was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor by the Air Force Colour Wing and afterward made his inaugural address to the entire Air Force. The newly appointed commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Bandhu Singh, laid out a comprehensive strategic vision aimed at enhancing operational capabilities, technological advancement, global operations, maritime security and national development.
A significant discussion has emerged regarding the release of 323 containers from the port without proper inspection. This report delves into the details of the incident.
Due to delays in the customs clearance process, a congestion of containers was reported at the port in recent days. Amidst this congestion, a large number of containers were released without inspection, as initially revealed by the Customs Officers Association.
රේගු අධ්‍යක්ෂ ජෙනරාල්වරයාගේ අනුදැනුමත් ඇතිව අතිරේක රේගු අධ්‍යක්ෂ ජෙනරාල්වරයෙක් සහ තවත්
with the knowledge of the Director General of Customs, an additional Director General of Customs, another Director General and a Senior Deputy Director General, approximately 323 containers that were marked for inspection were released without any checks. Among these, the majority were marked red, indicating they required stringent customs inspections according to our computer data system. Who has the legal authority to release such goods into society without proper inspection?
මෙහෙම බාණ්ඩ සමාජයට මුදා හරින්න කාටද නීතිමය අවසරයක් තියෙන්නේ?
The Samagi Jana Balavega and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna shared their views regarding the release of the containers to a prominent figure in the government. This is what the Samagi Jana Balavega had to say.
මේකෙන් එළියට ගියේ මොනවද? මත්ද්‍රව්‍යද? ආයුධද? බෙහෙත්ද? නීති විරෝධී භාණ්ඩද?
What was in these containers? Were they carrying drugs, weapons, medicine, illegal goods or luxury goods? What exactly was inside? And who were behind these shipments? The next issue is, among the 323 containers released, it has been reported that some of the container owners had previously been fined. The name of the Western Province Governor was circulating on social media, particularly on Facebook. If he is not at fault, he should come forward and publicly clarify that he has no connection to any of these goods in these containers. He should assert that he neither ordered anything nor owns any of these goods, thus clearing his name. Anurukumar Disanayaka also has a certain responsibility as it's the governor he appointed. These containers have been out for 12 days now, and continuing to complain without action won't resolve anything. I urge the president to investigate this situation immediately.
දැන් මේකට කෙන්ද්‍රික ගා ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ ජනාධිපතිතුමනි. මේකට වහාම පරීක්ෂණයක් පවත්වන්න ඕනේ.
මේ බහලුම් 332 තිබ්බේ මත්ද්‍රව්‍යද?
Were there drugs in the 332 containers or weapons, gold? None of us know what's inside. We question whether the government, which promised to stop theft, fraud, corruption and malpractice, will allow something like this to happen. This uncertainty is a clear sign of the government's failure. The compass has collapsed today.
මාලිමාව අද දිය වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Former Executive Director of the Consumer Affairs Authority, Salia Sarat Kumara, shared his views on this issue during SLPP media briefing today.
These containers are being released to a powerful individual, a central figure in the Western Province, to Anurukumar Disanayaka. Allegedly, these container shipments are connected to his name. This incident is being described as a robbery, a conspiracy, and a massive fraud that cannot be accepted. As a result, steps will be taken to file a complaint with the Financial Crimes Investigation Division regarding the fraud. We request the government to conduct a formal investigation after gathering the relevant information.
Newsfirst also reached out to Western Province Governor Hanif Yusuf for a comment on the matter.
There have been some malicious and false allegations against me as Governor of the Western Province, but more important, against a company that I founded, Expo Lanka, which everybody knows that I exited last March and now serve as an advisor of the board. And this being a foreign company, there was an accusation in the newspapers about 300 odd containers that had come to the port that had been that I am the importer and it being cleared by the company that I founded. I would like to say this is false, total false. I think the target is my acceptance as the governor of the Western Province to serve the people, to serve the nation. But in spite of this allegation, I would ask those people who are having these allegations to check with the manifest from the customs. It will customs that can tell you who the importer is and what the contents are. I firmly deny this allegation. I feel that I should just clear the air, and I thank everyone for understanding.
Expo Lanka also released a statement on the matter. Quote, Expo Lanka provides freight and logistics services and facilities for their customers only as a freight and logistics service provider and not as an importer. No company of Expo Lanka or its subsidiaries have provided freight and logistics services or customs clearance of any of the alleged 323 containers said to be released by the Sri Lanka Customs without inspection, end quote.
Meanwhile, another round of discussions took place yesterday regarding the potential alliance between the United National Party and the Samagi Jana Balavega. What progress has been made in their efforts to work together since that meeting?
The delegation appointed for discussions by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya and the United National Party convened for the third time yesterday.
The main focus of yesterday's discussions was to explore how two parties could collaborate in the upcoming local government elections. The talks covered forming an alliance or contesting separately, as well as the steps to take afterward. While the local government elections are an important part of the conversation, both sides also focused on how they could work together in a consensus after the elections. The exchange of views was productive with the support of both parties.
The UNP General Secretary also provided an explanation on the discussions held yesterday.
Everyone in the Samagi Jana Balawegaya participating in the discussions is approaching with this optimism. While they are committed to trying, they acknowledge that it's not possible to merge all at once. There are many aspects to consider, such as preparing for future nominations, deciding who will take responsibility in the potential merger, and agreeing on a symbol. These discussions are ongoing and may take another month or two to fully resolve. Although the immediate focus is on the local government elections, the larger goal remains a long-term collaboration, particularly given that those from the Samagi Jana Balawegaya are part of the United National Party. No, there is no need to discuss issues related to leadership at this stage. The upcoming election is about electing leaders of villages and not about party leaders or alliance leaders.
The group that backed Ranil Wickremesinghe and aligned with the gas cylinder symbol held discussions today to form a new alliance. The discussion was held at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters.
We are holding discussions with political forces that we can work together with. As a result, we have also spoken with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. We hope to take the necessary steps to build a broad alliance to effectively fulfill the role of the opposition in the future. We have no issues regarding leaders. We have plenty of leaders. We will bring them out when needed. We are discussing all matters related to the local government elections and future political activities. We believe that everyone we trust will join forces against the current government. We definitely need to create a strong opposition. We will work together.
We hope to
bring together the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Dilip Jayavira's party, Champika Ranawaka's group and everyone else to face the upcoming elections. To form a broad alliance, we are working as a group that brings all these people together at this time. We do not want to deal with the gas cylinder. We don't see a fit there. Considering the current situation, we have exchanged views on many issues. There are also some policy-related issues. We think that we should have a common consensus on this.
News First with the people. News First, main sponsor.
International Edu Expo with EdLocate on the 1st and 2nd February. Call us to register.
International Edu Expo organized by EdLocate on 1st February 2025 at the Taj Samudra and on the 2nd of February at the Kandy City Centre Banquet Hall. Call our hotline to register for the event.
Sri Lanka is experiencing a decline in air quality across all districts due to the activation of the southwest monsoon. The worsening air quality has prompted medical professionals to issue health advisories, particularly for those with respiratory issues and young children.
Air quality index readings from several areas today indicate a concerning trend. Nallur recorded the highest reading at 66. Colombo registered a reading of 38. Other areas including Badulla 60, Dambulla 63, Kurunagala 44, Putlam 41 and Batticaloa 65 also reported elevated AQI levels. According to medical experts, an AQI reading between 0 and 50 is considered good. However, current readings indicate that the air quality may pose health risks, especially for vulnerable groups. Doctors point out that an average adult inhales between 8,000 and 10,000 litres of air per day. Besides the skin, the respiratory system is the most exposed to the external environment. Exposure to harmful air can increase the risk of various diseases.
The very small particles, less than 2.5 microns in the air, can penetrate deep into the lungs. These particles, along with various pathogens and pollutants, can increase the risk of various diseases. Children are more susceptible to these effects, and adults with chronic respiratory diseases like asthma may also experience worsening symptoms. These individuals may experience increased frequency of colds and coughs. When the air quality index rises, their conditions can worsen.
What should be done to protect oneself?
As much as possible,
especially for young children and adults with chronic diseases, it's best to minimize outdoor exposure. Children should avoid playing outdoors and unnecessary outings. Adults with chronic conditions should wear masks when going outdoors. While masks are not necessary for everyone, individuals with respiratory conditions may find them beneficial.
The National Building Research Organization has said that the air quality situation is expected to improve by tomorrow, but urges the public to take necessary precautions in the meantime.
International Edu Expo, organized by Edlocate on 1st February 2025 at the Taj Samudra and on the 2nd of February at the Kandy City Centre Banquet Hall. Call our hotline to register for the event.
Lanka water project, built with the hope of bringing relief to the people, is now crumbling into the ground. In today's feature, What Happened to the Village, we take a look at this heartbreaking situation.
What happened to the village? The Pallama water project in Chilao, which cost over 4 million rupees, was completed and operational for just one day.
කිසිදු විධිමත් ක්‍රමවේදයකට නැතුව තමයි මේක ඉදි කරලා තියෙන්නේ. පොම්පාගාරය හදලා තියෙන්නෙත් එහෙමයි, ටැංකිය හදලා තියෙන්නෙත් එහෙමයි. ලස්සන වැඩේ කියන්නේ එකම එක දවසයි වතුර දෙන්න හම්බුනේ මේක මේ හදලා හිටා.
The pumps intended to draw water have corroded. Now, the project is so damaged that it is difficult to restore it to working condition.
මොනදියෙන් වුණාද කියන එක හරියටම කියන්න බෑ. වතුර ලීක් එකක් පටන් ගත්තා. ඉතින් ඒ අනුව හුඟක් අය මේකට දොස් කියන තත්ත්වයටපත් වුණා. ලීක් එක තමයි හුඟම බලපෑ.
This has been the situation for not just a short period, but for 15 years. What a waste of money. This isn't just anyone's money. It's the people's money. What happened to the village?
Imagine this. You are asleep at home after a long day at work, and suddenly a herd of wild animals start breaking into your home every night. They destroy your gardens, trample your belongings, and even threaten your safety. Now that is the sad reality for many villagers in Sri Lanka.
In the village of Galahitia, located in Munaragala, life for the 500 families living there has become increasingly difficult due to a growing problem with elephants. Despite the installation of an electric fence along the Katharagama-Buttala road, about 10 kilometers of the fence remains incomplete, leaving the village vulnerable. To try to protect their farms, villagers have resorted to hanging bottles along the fence, hoping it will keep the elephants away. But these makeshift solutions haven't been enough.
උත්තර පාරාර ඒ පැත්තෙන් එන අතන කරන්ට් එකට ඉඳලා එන කරන්ට් එකට තියෙන කදුරු පොකුණට. කදුරු පොකුණේ වැට කැඩිච්ච එකෙන් තමයි මේ පැත්තෙන් අලි මේ කැලෑවට ආවේ. ඒතකොට ඒ වැට ප්‍රසංස්කරණය කරෙත් නෑ මේ ටිකේ අලි ආදුනේ. ඒතකොට පාරිසරික සභාවෙන් කියන්නේ කුණු කළමනාකරණය කරන මධ්‍යස්ථාන තියෙනෙත් ඔය ගම්මුදා භූමිය ආශ්‍රිතව. ඒකට මේ අලියක් බැවුණා ඒ පළතුරු කෑලි කුණු කන්න. ඒතකොට ඒකේ පැටව ගාලා බෝලා අලි 50ක් විතර මේ ටිකේ ඉන්නවා. මෙතන ඉඳලා තියෙන්නේ කැලණිතාච්චිය ගාව ඉඳලා බැලුවත් කිලෝමීටර් 10ක් 12ක් 15ක් වේ අන්තිම. ඒ වැට අර වැටට සම්බන්ධ කරා නම් ඔයාලට කැලේ ඇතුළේ ඉන්න ගම නිදහස.
මේ කහවගාව විනාශ කළා දාලා අපිට භෝගයක් කරන්න අමාරුයි. ඉතින් ඔය අලියන හින්දා. ඒ අමතරව ඉතින් අපිට ළමයිත් එක්ුණා රැයට නිදා ගන්න බයයි.
රැයක් දවාලක් කියලා වෙලාවක් නැහැ. හවස 1 2 3ට තලිය වත්තේ. ඉතින් පොල් ගස් ඒව සියලු දේ කරනවා කිසි දෙයක් හදා ගන්න බෑ අපිට.
The Gammadda team in Monaragala came across the village of Galahitiya during their door-to-door initiative today.
International Edu Expo organized by Edlocate on 1st February 2025 at the Taj Samudra and on the 2nd of February at the Kandy City Centre Banquet Hall. Call our hotline to register for the event.
Welcome back. Continuing in more local news, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has maintained the overnight policy rate at the current level. The announcement was made at a press briefing this morning.
The Monetary Policy Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka at its meeting held yesterday decided to maintain the overnight policy rate or OPR of the Central Bank at its current level at 8%. The board arrived at this decision following a careful analysis of the current and expected macroeconomic developments on the domestic and global fronts. This decision was made with a medium-term view of ensuring that inflation converges to the target of 5% while supporting the economy to reach its potential. The board observed that the current period of deflation as projected earlier has largely been an outcome of administratively determined energy price reductions. This trend is expected to continue over the next few months before inflation begins adjusting towards a targeted level in the second half of 2025. During the press conference, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, speaking on the recent fluctuations in the exchange rate, emphasized that it is determined by the market demand and supply. He noted that the exchange rate had improved from 370 to around 290 to 300. Dr. Veerasinghe highlighted that the exchange rate can move in either direction based on demand and corresponding inflows.
We have seen 1.8% depreciation in the rupee so far this year. It's a bit different from last 2 years where we saw appreciation. Any import demand picking up or any reason for that?
As I said, I think that's an important question. Exchange rate, as you said already, exchange rate will determine the market based on demand and supply. So what we are talking about here, if you look at the rate, we are talking about exchange rate from 370 to came down to 290 and 300 levels. That's one factor. The second factor is that when the import demand or demand for exchange coming up, there's a factor that there are corresponding inflows also coming up. It can move either way based on the demand supply. That's why you are seeing there was a bit of a movement in one direction, and then again last 2 days is again started appreciating in the short-term market factors. In the medium to long term, what we need to look at is that whether, as I said earlier, whether import is picking up and whether we going to have a sufficient inflows to meet that import demand or foreign exchange demand, then so that we can look at it. And obviously, our policy is to let the currency determine in the market without too much intervention, but we will smoothen out the volatility. I have seen some of the reports interpreting this as out of context. I think that is why I saw somewhere even Bloomberg or someone, even some media reporting it's a worst performing currency of Sri Lanka rupee during this 28 days or something. I think factually it is correct. This month our currency appreciated by I think close to 2%. On the top of last 2 years appreciated by also around 10% after last sharp depreciation. And also other fact that I want to highlight, the performance of currency and performance of economy are two different things. That's why I want to make it very clear and have a bit of understanding of the performance of currency versus performance of an economy are two different things. For example, if you look at Indian currency and Chinese currency, for last, I think I have information on the last 2-3 years, both currencies are at the lowest point of the history, lowest point compared to US dollar. But those two countries, India has 640 billion US dollars reserves. China has 3.2 trillion foreign exchange reserves. So if one see foremost currency is a worst performing economy, those are the countries that have been performing best in the world, China and India. Currency is at the lowest point now. That's where I think we need to be very careful in interpreting the movement of currency versus performance of the economy are two different things. And that's why, because every time what we see when currency appreciating, people think economy is performing well, depreciating economy is performing bad. That's not correct.
Are there any other central bank requirements to be completed for the IMF program or for the next review? Is it all done now?
Yeah, if you look at our commitments, we have actually only thing this the inflation band, we are below the band. That's all.
Dr. Veera Singh emphasized that while technical exercise might show a potential growth rate of around 3 to 4%, he believes that actual potential could be higher, possibly around 4 to 5%. He highlighted that this assessment involves judgment and consideration of various factors such as labor, capital and productivity.
අධිකතුමා ජනතාවගෙන් එල්ලවන චෝදනාවක් තමයි උද්දමනයේ 70 මට්ටමට යනකොට ඒක හොඳටම දැනුණා. නමුත් අවදානකාරී තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනකොට ඒක ප්‍රතිලාභ ජනතාවට සම්ප්‍රේෂණය වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක.
ඒකකින් එහෙම මතයක් තියෙනවා තමයි ඒකේ.
There's a perception that inflation has stabilized at 70%. This is because prices have increased significantly and have remained at a higher level. When we say inflation is stable, it means that the price levels are not decreasing. The concept is correct in that while prices have increased, incomes have not risen proportionately for everyone. This is a gradual process that aligns with the economic growth of a country. It takes time for incomes to catch up with inflation. This does not happen overnight. That is why some sectors still feel the impact of inflation even though it has decreased. For example, if the price of goods was 100 in 2020 and increased by 70%, it became 170. If it then increased by another 50%, it became 175. The price of goods has increased from 100 to 175. However, if incomes also increased, there would be no difference. But incomes have not increased proportionately for everyone. Some sectors have seen income growth, while others have not. This is a gradual process.
ආදායම එහෙම හැමෝගෙම වැඩිලා නැහැ. සමහර කොටස්වල වැඩිලා ඇති, සමහර අග නැති වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ක්‍රමානුකූලව වෙන වැඩක්.
A U.S. judge temporarily halted President Donald Trump's order to freeze hundreds of billions of dollars in federal grants and loans minutes before it was set to come into effect yesterday.
Judge Lauren Ali Khan's order to pause the plan until next Monday came in response to a lawsuit filed earlier in the day by a group of organizations representing grant recipients. The lawsuit claims that the White House's temporary freezing of the already approved funding violates the law. In the hours before the order was due to take effect, there was a widespread confusion about which agencies and programs would be affected. The acting head of the White House Budget Office had instructed agencies to temporarily pause all activities related to obligations or disbursements of all federal financial assistance. It said the move was intended to give the new administration time to assess what grants and loans were in step with their agenda. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Trump's plan to pause billions of dollars in U.S. government funding was about being, quote-unquote, good stewards of tax dollars. Speaking to reporters in her first ever briefing, she said the pause in funding would allow government to cut back spending for woke, gender issues and diversity programs. But it prompted confusion as well as anger from opposition figures. Yesterday, as those who receive federal loans and grants such as non-profits and research organizations reckoned with the reality of swiftly losing funding. Judge Ali Khan said yesterday she was issuing a brief stay that would preserve the status quo until she can hold an oral argument now set for Monday morning. The White House directive could have impacted billions of dollars meant for federal programs from disaster relief to cancer research.
Multiple people were killed in a crowd crush at the world's largest religious gathering in India as tens of millions of devotees went to bathe in river of one of the most sacred days of a Hindu festival.
Dozens of people have been injured in a stampede at India's Mahakumbh festival as tens of thousands of people turned out for the largest religious gathering in India to offer their prayers by the riverbanks of the northern city of Prayagraj. Footage of rescue teams carrying victims away from the religious site showed clothes, shoes and other discarded belongings strewn all over the ground as police officers carried stretchers bearing the bodies of victims draped with blankets to waiting ambulances. The final death toll is yet to be confirmed, and relatives of injured victims were anxiously waiting for news outside makeshift hospitals. At least 10 crore pilgrims were expected to flock to the Mahakumbh Mela today to take a dip in the river on the holy occasion of Mauni Amavasya.
An Airbus plane belonging to South Korean carrier Air Busan caught fire at Gimhae International Airport in the country's south while preparing for departure to Hong Kong yesterday.
An Airbus plane has caught fire at an airport of South Korea's city of Busan, forcing the evacuation of all 176 people on board. They say 4 people were injured as they were escaping their Busan aircraft on inflatable slides in the southeastern airport last evening. The blaze is said to have started at the tail of the Hong Kong-bound plane shortly before takeoff. Firefighters who arrived within minutes were seen trying to put out the fire. This comes less than a month after the worst air disaster on South Korean soil when a Jeju airplane crash-landed in southwestern Muan Airport, killing 179 people. 2 people survived. Foreign media said the fire on board the Air Busan plane in Gimhae International Airport began at around 10:26 p.m. local time yesterday. Photos later emerged showing the burning aircraft being doused with water. There were 169 passengers and 7 crew on board the plane. The cause of the fire is being investigated. Busan's airport is located about 315 kilometers southeast of the capital, Seoul.
Sri Lanka secured a thrilling 12-run win over Australia today in their Super 6 encounter during the ongoing ICC Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup.
Go ahead, Lucy, you've got the...
Sri Lanka's skipper Manudinana Kara won the toss and decided to bat first in the encounter played at Bangi, Malaysia. Sri Lanka's opening pair of Sanjana Kavindi and Sumudu Nisansala built a strong 42-run partnership for the first wicket. Sumudu Nisansala and Sanjana Kavindi scored 18 and 19 runs respectively. Skipper Manudinana Kara contributed with 15 runs. Lily Basingwaite bagged 3 wickets for Australia. Sri Lanka recorded 99 runs for the loss of 8 wickets. Defending a target of 100 runs, Sri Lanka's bowling contingent managed to pile on the pressure on the Australians as their first 3 wickets fell for just 23 runs. Khaime Bray was the top scorer of Australia with 27 runs. Eleanor LaRosa scored 18 runs. Shamudi Prabodha, Pramudi Metsara and Aseni Talunuge bagged 2 wickets each. Australia's chase ended on 87 runs for 8 wickets at the end of 20 overs. With this result, Sri Lanka ended 3rd in their Super 6 group. Meanwhile, Nigeria trumped over Ireland by 6 runs in their Super 6 encounter. Batting first, the Nigerians recorded a total of 94 runs for 7 wickets in 20 overs. In reply, the Irish were bowled out for 88 runs in 18.4 overs. All the action of the ICC Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup can be viewed on TV1 and www.sirasatv.lk, part of the MTV Media Network, the official local broadcaster of the tournament. The Colours of Courage Trust, in partnership with the Ministry of Health and the Sri Lanka Army, has announced the resumption of the construction of the Karappa Trail Cancer Hospital project. The update was shared during a press briefing held today.
The Karappa Trail Cancer Hospital project is set to be completed by 2026, and the project aims to enhance cancer treatment facilities benefiting countless patients across the country.
The next phase was to build a hospital in the south, and obviously Karappa was the perfect choice. It's a teaching hospital as well as they had a small cancer unit. So having a facility there will provide everyone in the south to come there and get treated. And now we need to raise another 2.2 billion rupees to complete this project. The total cost for the structure alone will be about 2.6 billion rupees. Plus then we'll have to equip the hospital after that, so that will be the third phase of it. But we are very confident with the support that we had with the first hospital and the second walk that we will be able to raise money, and we are hoping that people who contributed at that time are able to contribute again for us, because everyone knew what we've delivered and the impact that we've been able to make in the lives of Sri Lankans. The state-of-the-art treatment is what we require. The technology has improved, the treatment has improved, so if we can provide the same facilities and we'll be able to save lives. And as part of that is obviously awareness, educating people as well.
The reason was actually we only had one hospital in Maragama, and we were trying to ensure that people got the service and the timing and the support required during this crisis that they go through. In 2016, we embarked on a challenge of walking back. When this new government came in, they were able to give us the approvals required to commence the construction of the hospital, which is phase 2. So the foundations are finished. Phase 2 is the superstructure building that will come up. And we are hoping that we will complete this project sometime towards the end of 2026.
Trail Cancer Hospital project is a collaborative effort between Colours of Change Trust and the Ministry of Health to create increased access to cancer care.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.